Okay, we're recording.
How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the Data Lab here on the sportsaffiliation.com. This is Dennis Michelson along with the professor, John Bush. We're back again. And Professor, you have been playing a lot with AI in the off season, and you have generated a very interesting article.
Yeah, I have. And just to let folks know, I've done 5 of these, so they should check all of them out. I have edited, I have thrown comments in, and this article is one that I wanted Dennis to comment. And I've read through it a couple times, and I'm sure there's aspects that I think when Dennis comments will inspire me to think. And again, 2 things. Your diary, you need a diary. Number 2, you need to find multiple people, at least one that is serious with this fantasy football and can help you bounce material ideas back and forth. You can't live in your mom's basement. That's fine. You can, but you need somebody else there on the computer to help you go through this. So that's what Dennis, that's what he and I do, bounce ideas back and forth. And Dennis, I see it. The reason I wrote this article and the title is can deep stats, and I'm not defining deep yet, with uh, can deep stats with consistency. See, we're all in on consistency. If you've listened to us, we've got 3 different measurements of consistency. Can it win? And we're not defining win there, just win versus AI advice. And you're saying AI advice. I suspect it's already starting, and this year is going to be even more. A lot of companies and people are going to get a little lazy, Dennis, and they're going to try to make AI their serving platter because it would save them time and help them get more clicks and more advertising. But it's going to be AI advice. I think it's coming. And I believe that you're going to have to beat AI advice. And you're thinking, okay, in some ways, playing value with ADP is going to be a lot like AI. AI may be a little bit better. I don't know. Nobody's measuring that, by the way. Have you heard anybody saying, well, we compared AI advice to ADP and this is what we found? Nobody's done that study because we're not quite there yet. But I just assumed we would be dealing with that, Dennis, you and I, because we like to make money, have made money, want to
Oh,
continue
yeah.
to make money. And I think we're going to be in 12 leagues, 12 team leagues. I suspect there's going to be 2 or 3 or more, maybe this year, that are going to be using AI generated advice, you know. And so I just want to be able to beat those folks as well. And I think deep stats with consistency will give us our edge. And that's what we're building and we're testing. We just spent an hour and a half in secret clubhouse stuff, secret stuff, where Dennis sees where we're going. I mapped out the next 3 or 4 years of where we're going with our deep stats. But right now, I ask Grok, an AI, on Twitter or X, the advice, can it win? And then I ask him, describe the success and pros and cons. First question, and Grok says yes. A rigorous deep stats with consistency can meaningfully, I'm not sure what that means, outperform generic AI. So I felt pretty good, Dennis. AI agreed that we can beat AI in the future years. So I know it's coming, Dennis. I'm just trying to keep you and I ahead of the game here. Everybody's, flapping around like fish on the boat. We're going to be ahead of the game. We're going to be swimming like dolphins, and we're going to be jumping and catching the value and collecting all those goodies while everybody else is still flopping in the boat. And the reason we're going to do that, and Grok says we will deliver a targeted statistical edge that generic tools can match on their own, Dennis. That's what you and I have been doing. If you didn't know, folks, what we've been doing the last 276 podcast in the last years, that last part is what we're trying to do. We're trying to beat everything the public's going to throw at us, Dennis. And this is what Grok says. Yes. It said, yes, we can do what we think we can do, Dennis. That was really good. I mean, I should just stop there and just walk away, right? Mic drop. Yes, we can do it. What you think? Just setting this up here, and we'll
So
go on to the rest.
I love the wording on this because generic AI advice
Yes.
is the key here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just do a very basic prompt in any of the free AIs that are available now,
Mm-hmm.
and even a few of the ones that you pay a minimal fee for,
Mm-hmm.
if you do not target that question deep enough, you end up with generic AI advice. And by that, I mean, you end up with a very basic look based on everything that's out there on the internet. AI does a really, really good job of finding that consensus opinion, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And we know from playing fantasy football for way too many years, all you need to do in fantasy football is beat the consensus.
Yes.
You need to be better than ADP. And so if you're drafting the 25th running back to come off the board, and you've got that guy rated as the 15th highest, and you are just thrilled to death that he fell to you,
Yeah.
and you are right, you now have paid yourself off. Like the first 3 rounds, you just want to avoid stepping in a pothole or hitting a landmine. You just want to avoid making a mistake. But as the draft goes on, the farther and deeper you go into a draft, that's where you just have to be better than consensus. I don't have to be right on a player. Like several years ago with Puka Nacua, I was like, man, I got to have this guy on my team.
Right.
I didn't think he was going to be top 5 in the league. I just knew he was going to have a great opportunity to be an impact player, and you were getting him dirt cheap. So you didn't have to be right that he was going to be top 5. You didn't draft him top 5, right? You just drafted him way ahead of everybody else. And we were confident about that choice.
Yeah.
Just like we were confident on Amon-Ra St. Brown, his second year in the league.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, I can't get enough of this guy on my team.
Right.
I know he's a top 10 wide receiver. I didn't know that he was going to be top 5. I just knew this is one of my top 10 guys going into this year. You love the offense, love the quarterback, love the player.
Right.
And you love the way he finished his rookie year. That was easy pickings. Chris Olave last year, we were way ahead of consensus on Chris Olave.
Yes.
We didn't need to be pinpointing where his value was. We just needed to add him to our team at the right place in the draft. AI, I think, especially generic AI, when you just ask an AI tool, who are the best fantasy football wide receivers this year? Who are the best guys going to be?
I mean, you could even say by round, and
By
it
round,
will, yeah.
whatever. Yeah, if you just ask it, rank the top fantasy football players from 1 to 200 this year, you're going to get a very generic answer based on all the data that's out there. But you and I and guys like Bob Lung understood a long time ago fantasy football is a weekly game. You don't get any credit necessarily just by scoring the most points for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
You need to score the most points on a weekly basis
Right.
and be strong at different times of the season. I can't have players that are all peaking in week 12 because I'll never make the playoffs.
Right.
I can't have players that have their best 6 games, the first 6 games of the year, because I'll get killed in the playoffs.
Right.
I've got to have a good mix of players that will get you through the whole year. And that's where strategy can beat ADP. It's understanding how to layer players. If I take a certain player, what is my backup plan if that guy gets hurt? I need to have that strategy set, and I'm not sure AI is picking up on that nuance yet, unless you really are giving an advanced cue for it to search, and then it will tap in to more strategy decisions. But generic AI, I think, is going to be able to be beat just like generic ADP.
Yeah. So the next part, we discuss what each method means, and I give some examples. And it's, I hit at the bottom. I said, and custom indexes like what we're doing. Okay.
Yes.
And then I added my comment. The goal is to build a roster with great floors, reliable, and minimize variance, stability correlations. And you and I are working on that, right? To project reliability. So we're going to be testing. And then I said, in the context of the better than zero philosophy, and I think I spelled philosophy wrong, sorry. We will prosper during the age of AI. In other words, I think that's what's coming, and people are going to be lazy and they're going to
Oh, yeah.
see. And so I just assumed we're going to have to be fighting AI, Dennis, and I suspect we've been fighting it, but it's going to be more prominent, right? And it's almost like in horse racing, sacred information is more valuable
Yes.
the fewer people know. And that's why I do the hot dog index. If the hot dog man knows it, then it's worth nothing. Strike it off your list, right?
Yes.
If you've got a
Yes.
play and the insiders are saying the barn is a go today, they say, and they like their horse, just ask the hot dog man. And if he's heard it too, forget about it. Go and find something else, right? So just use the hot dog index, Dennis, and I believe that's what AI is in fantasy football.
Yes.
It's like the hot dog index, and it might win you a Kraut dog or a Chicago dog, but that's about it, Dennis. And that's not good for a lot. Generic AI advice, and I think there's a lot of tools, and they're going to be selling you those stuff, and people are going to be enamored. You know, that means I can really get drunk and go to the draft, right? Yeah, that's what it means. Just hit your Grok button or Gemini or Claude or whatever. So, yeah, AI drafts aligning closely with consensus, but missing edges. And I think that's what I think a lot of people are going to be is they're going to be, but they're going to go with it because it's new and different and pretty and shiny. But it's got a hook to it, and they're going to be hooked and lose. So I just wanted us to kind of start being aware about that, Dennis. But that's what I think. And there's some other sites that has some of these deeper stats, and you need to test those. Uh, some of these sites do have data, but I don't know how rigorous they test it because they don't really show that I remember. And I know what I do because I spend probably 3 or 4 hours since I'm retired, folks. I can a day or so during the week. Uh, so I'm putting somewhere between 15, 20 plus hours hanging on my computer doing tests, and Dennis is aware of all that. And we will be at the expo this year if you're listening, and you can come visit us. We're going to have some scientific posters that highlight some of the research Dennis and I have been doing. So you can come meet with us and talk about it, Dennis. So that's what that paragraph means. And here's the
Yeah,
pros. And if you want to comment, you can.
yeah, just one quick comment here. And here is, I think, the one factor in fantasy football that, for whatever reason, has not really resonated with people. And you mentioned the better than zero philosophy.
Yes.
What that is, folks, is it's a different way of drafting a team, and the emphasis is on building a system that rewards you even if you're wrong occasionally about individual players. And that's so key, because I am not going to be correct on all 1 to 20 draft picks. I would love to be. I've never experienced a draft that I haven't missed on one of my 20 draft picks. I have come close. I have had teams that have gone undefeated through the season and in the playoffs. It's very rare, but I've had it happen. That's a draft where you hit on almost all 20 draft picks. But the key to building a strategy is that it rewards you when you're wrong. Sounds crazy, but it can happen. Case in point, last year with Dallas, running back situation. There were other guys I liked ahead of Javonte Williams, but I took Javonte Williams to go with one of those other guys because I knew he had a shot as well. That paid off, even though I had him ranked to start the season outside my top 25. But by getting him, I had a top 15 running back because he was just too cheap.
He was cheap.
He was just too cheap. People let him get it. And I even commented in one of the drafts that we did publicly. Mm-hmm. We should have taken him 2 rounds ago. Yeah. But you guys are going to give him to me here. I'm going to take him. And that's the philosophy that we're talking about, is there comes a time when even a player you don't have ranked all that highly is the value, because he's got that opportunity. If everything goes right, he can be a star on your team. And that's the edge that you're going to have in thinking versus just a set list, 1 to 25 at each position. Go at it. But yeah, I like the way, if your strategy should pay off, pay you a dividend, even when you're slightly wrong, because you backed up that player you're wrong on with one that you're going to end up being right on. And number two, a good strategy minimizes the impact of bad luck like injuries and maximizes the good luck like injuries to somebody else.
Yeah.
And even those big weeks that a player can pop up and have, because if I draft a group of players and I get past the seventh round and I'm drafting all upside, and now I apply the professor's data on a weekly basis, defensive matchup data, efficiency data, I got a good chance of finding the right guy to put in that last flex spot that's going to have a big week.
Right. I like it. Dennis, here's the pros and cons. Looks like I haven't, looks like I need to uh, do some spelling here. But anyway, I'm not going to do the pros. You can read that, but the cons, I liked it. It says for our deep stats, time and expertise intensive. Yeah, I just told you time. Bottom line, you got to know stats and application required years of analysis practice. So Grok says time and expertise, and I added knowledge of stats and years. We have that expertise, folks. We have that depth. And one guy, and it didn't say who, says one analysis called consistency overrated. And we respond to that con saying that any stat can dominate for a game, right? That we've seen the Gurley effect or some of the others. I mean, Kamara went crazy one year I mean, you can't help that. If they turn a 50 burger game on you, what you gonna do? You know, Dennis is your feeling that just make the playoffs and work the best you can work really settled me down years ago. When we first started, you were just you knew that, and I was kind of a little bit like, yeah, I hate to lose every game. And then I realized he's right that you can just shoot for the playoffs and then work it. So if that's how you're judging stats, some pundit said, "Oh, it's overrated." Well, it can be one game, but stats looks across at lots of games. The reason Dennis and I do a lot, I do 40 or more, I have it right here,
Yep.
because even one or two or three of my playoff teams get caught in a Gurley effect.
Yep.
I'm still alive. Maybe I've got Gurley on two or three teams.
Correct.
So it's a pro and con. Yeah, it's hard if you have 20 playoffs and you win all 20, Dennis. That's just not realistic. Each week we're getting cut down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But people that are doing one team a year, I you could go 10 years and not win a championship. Just the
Correct.
stats.
Correct.
So I urge people to try to build multiple teams once you master and you start getting pretty good. If you make the playoffs in one or two teams, why don't you double that? See what happens. And just keep building to where you will let the stats play in your favor. So that was the pros and cons of deep stats. And the cons, like I said, yeah, you need stats. Yeah, you got to work hard. Uh, and the con was no automation. Yeah, but we do the hefty lifting for you folks. At least generically, we will throw out some stats and things. We may not tell you, give you the complete fire. We want you to learn how to chop some wood too, right? And yes, injuries funny things can happen. And it's just, but you play the odds, Dennis. You play, the longer you play, if you've got a winning system, you'll win. And that's how you'll know. If you play 40 teams and you don't win 2 or 3 years, I know, well, I've lost. Yeah, but you'll know that. It's like, man, I need to scale back. Folks, I have scaled up. The reason I've hit about 40 is just if you've tried to set waiver wire for 40 teams, it can be tricky, especially when you've got a job and family. And now that I'm retired, it's actually easier, Dennis. I could probably take more teams now. But 40 is not is kind of this number that I try to stay and use. And so far, I've made lots of money. And I've been noticing, folks, that Dennis every year, how many you got there? Every year seems like he's doing a few more. He's letting his greediness get in, and that's good. Greed is good if you're making money. So anyway, pros and cons, Dennis, of what we're doing.
Yeah, and here's the key is you're playing the percentages, okay? You know what the odds are, and in many cases, because of our methodology and our deep dive into stats,
Yep.
we're surprised less often.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I look at a player, and first of all, everybody in the world tries to put a single number on a single player. Well, when you're forecasting the future, it's a range of logical outcomes.
Yeah.
And if you do this long enough, you also understand where the edges are. And we talk about the Gurley and the Kamara big games in the playoffs that beat players. Well, both of those players were very easy to spot as guys to have on your roster too. So while the Kamara game
Yeah.
in the playoffs cost me a championship one year in an so-called experts league I got invited to, I had I had one loss during the regular season, one loss in the playoffs, and they're both to the same team with Kamara, his two best games. That's going to happen. But I had Kamara on 7 of my teams. So I did very well that year. I've I'm I've won 16 years in a row. I've won money 16 years in a row at fantasy football. It either means if it's all luck, I'm the luckiest person around.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I qualify as that. Is my ROI consistent from year to year? No. I've had years where I've tripled my money, and I've had years like last year where I just barely made a profit.
Yeah.
That's going to be how the luck plays out. And that's why you play more than one team. Yes, have your home league and that you don't care about. That's your fun league. I want to win that league. But what we're talking about is bankroll management.
Right.
If I've got $500 to invest in fantasy football every year, I don't play in a $500 league. I would ideally like to play in about 50, smaller leagues and spread that risk out. In reality, you don't end up doing that. You'll play, maybe your home league's $100 league. So I've got $400 more to play. Maybe I'll do, my schedule is pretty busy. So I'll play 10 $40 leagues in addition to my home league. Now I know what I've got to win. I need to win X number of leagues to break even. I win more than that, I win money for the year. That's the way you got to handle your bankroll. It's got to be a smart bankroll management. If it's all about luck, if you can't take some of the luck and put it on your side, you're better off going to the casino with that $500, put it on red or black,
And walk
and
out.
walk away either zero or doubling your money.
Yep.
Because that's all about luck. Okay. Now, there are ways to play the roulette wheel with betting strategies that take the luck out of the equation as much as possible, but you're still subject to one of those horrendous rolls where you need a huge bankroll or you're going to lose. So you got to be smart with fantasy football in your strategy, but also your bankroll management. And if you do that, you have now you've tilted the odds in your favor to win money over the course of the next 10 seasons. Because even though I've had 16 winning seasons in a row, I understand going in that I could have a bad year and I could lose everything in the playoffs. I could get 20 of 30 teams in the playoffs and not get a single one winning a championship. It's possible, folks. But over the course of the next 10 years, I don't think it's going to happen every year. I think I've got the odds that I can put in my favor to win money.
Exactly. Here is just some comments that they have for the generic advice here. Number one, speeding accessibility. That's what I think more people, everybody's going to have access to it. It's going to get cheaper. I don't know what they're charging now for these, generic advice where you hook your league up to what some site says or not. I don't know quite. I know Fantasy Pros and some of these other ones has it because I use those on occasion that just it gives me an idea of what's coming up next, but generically, in other words, what should, is there going to be a run of running backs or something coming up? Usually my pattern analysis beforehand catches that. We did that with Aces Up this week. We were talking about best ball and finding patterns, but this allows you to get on that. So you can have some advantage and it's good for casual play and just, but it beats random drafting. So I think a lot of people, it might be an advantage doing generic AI dentist because it's better than just, flipping around or, whatever they've been doing. The con is it's going to miss what Dennis and I know are our edges in consistency. It's just going to miss it, folks. Sorry, but you gotta, you're not chopping the tree. You don't get the fire. And again, scarcity and secret data builds our edge. I made that comment. It says everybody has access, but there's, in a shark infested water, there's only so many little fish to chew on, right? The hot dog index comes in, Dennis. And everybody's got the hot dog man to advise them, and it doesn't help. Everybody's on top of the secret horse. And so Dennis and I don't share everything with folks, so we maintain our secret stuff, Dennis. So you can read that, the pros and cons. I did want to just talk a little bit about estimated success. And I'll say Grok thinks we have a 5 to 15% better Dennis to about a 55 to 70% regular season win rate. Boy, if he's talking about getting into the playoffs, yeah, about 70% I usually get pretty good. Usually 20s to 30, probably about 25 out of 40. I'm usually making the playoffs, Dennis. And last year I hit 6 wins, and that was enough to make a small profit, 11% ROI. The year before I hit 8, and that really was it was gravy that year. And some
Yep.
years I've hit 10 or 12 and really raked the chips in. So usually between 5 to 12 out of about 40 is kind of my area. And each win is about 300, 350 in credit, something like that, Dennis. So you're talking 3,500, and I'm not putting in that much at all. Probably putting in about 1,500 a year. So yeah, I'm doubling my money. So anyway, but like I said, generic AI, you're going to have be better than just auto drafting. So folks, if you're auto drafting, hopefully you're not. If you're auto drafting, you're not listening to us. I know. So this might help you that way on that. So anyway, Dennis, that's what it says for success. I know you haven't read this article, but I'm actually editing it as we talk about it.
Yeah, and here's the key, Professor. Nobody needs a specialty statistics to tell you that Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the safest picks at the wide receiver position this year.
Yeah, or Bijan Robinson.
Or Bijan Robinson at running back.
Yes.
But here's the key. We're like right now, as of April 18th, everything's subject to change.
Right.
But the consensus right now is Bijan number 1, Gibbs number 2. Neither of us has Jahmyr Gibbs at number 2 right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I've got, I'm expecting a bad year from him, but I've got him as my RB6. I'm not going to get him at RB6. He's going to be long gone. What that tells me is that there's other guys that I will prioritize ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs that I think have a better chance or an equal chance of performing up to what he does this year.
Right.
And so I have no problem passing on Gibbs at RB2 and maybe going with a wide receiver, going with something else. And it's not because I think he's going to be a flop. I mean, RB6, my goodness, I'm expecting a great season from him.
Right.
But it's lower than consensus.
Right.
Then there's other guys like Josh Jacobs and James Cook, who I'm probably going to end up being higher on than consensus. I'm more likely to have both of those guys on my team than I am Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yes.
So those are the percentages that I'm willing to lean into. And then there's other guys that I've got rated high. I've got Christian McCaffrey rated right up there with Bijan Robinson. But I understand the risk at taking McCaffrey. And I had McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs rated pretty close to each other last year. I had a hard time pulling the trigger on McCaffrey. And I was wrong. But that's where, the data said he was safer than a lot of other guys. And the brain said, oh my gosh, what if? And you get worried about those injuries. And you cannot play fantasy football like that. You've got to go with where the data is leading you. And your fear factor, if you will, just means protect yourself with another pick. If I'm worried about my top running back getting hurt at a higher rate, maybe, than other top running backs, I solve that problem by taking more running backs. I don't solve that problem by ignoring the guy that I'm worried about if the price is right.
Right.
So, no, I'm not going to take Christian McCaffrey at RB1. Although one piece of my data says he's the safest running back out there, then Bijan. But I'll probably take Bijan ahead of him because I think he's just a little bit less of a risk at age 24 versus CMC at age 30. That's where the logic goes in to the equation. And AI, I don't think is going to pick up on that little subtle moves either. And, but that's okay because we just need to beat consensus, which is what I think, generic AI is going to be really good at.
You're right. So the bottom line, this is what Gronk said, some of it, and I added some stuff too. Uh, Deep stats wins more. Folks, it does. We've been using that for years and we're getting better. I don't know how to describe that career arc concept that you and
Oh,
I have experienced. Think
yes.
about when you and I teamed up. We didn't really know each other 3, 4 years ago. We started at Fake Pig, which is gone, still got a few barbecue tear stains, Dennis. Oh, and folks, I think we did a show on where we lamented the loss of Fake Pig. But anyway, we have come such a long way and influenced each other. At the same time, we have paid attention to people like Bob Lung, Michael Reedy, Jim Coventry, uh, Bob Harris, uh, Greg, our partner at TSA. Uh, we've paid attention and taken what the best of what they've said and molded it together. So we have changed. We are not the same that we were, Dennis, before we got together
Oh,
and
no.
have been on this journey.
Nope.
We've gotten better. And so, folks, we've got diaries going. We know what has helped us. I just can't explain how much fun, like today when we're doing the show, it's pleasing for me to kind of look back because usually when I'm doing my research, Dennis, I'm all focused and all in on it. This allows me to kind of contemplate the past a little bit, and I feel like I'm so much sharper. You're better than zero, really. Uh, Codified some thinking that I had, and it has shown me how I can get better. And your opportunity index has been one of that. Uh, and then, me pushing you to make that and think in probabilities has made that better. Your MVP started me and inspired me to do my metrics on Calm and Bush LR. And that is what I think helped us all out. And you and I have taken advantage of that. So we are stacking those probabilities, not guaranteed, but we're more likely to make money than not these days. And we're hoping for high medians this year and low variance. I say that, kind of as good luck. But anyway, that was my bottom line. I think it's going to help us. And we're putting a lot of effort in, more than you probably are, unless you're spending as much time as me. But yes, AI is a good starting point. If you've not paid attention to us, you're just hearing us for the first time. Yeah, start with AI and ask yourself, why is that being picked? Keep you an AI diary, right? A running, what was AI seeing that you missed? That's what I would do. I would do a mock without AI, write it down, and then come back and use AI and see what they did different and why. Who was right and wrong. Maybe you're really better at quarterbacks than AI, but maybe you suck at tight ends. So maybe it's a way for you to start using AI in certain uh, areas that will help your game. That's the bottom line. Make money, right, Dennis? So anyway, read the bottom line. High median, low variance. That's where we want to be, Dennis.
Yeah, and each one of our metrics have a purpose. Okay, I like to compare because being a meteorologist, I like to compare some of the forecasting that we do in fantasy football to what I used to do in weather forecasting. And in weather forecasting, when you're looking at severe weather potential and thunderstorm threats, there's a very easy to calculate index called the lifted index. That's my MVP data. It's very easy to calculate. It gives you a quick look at potential. Your Bush LR is more similar to the CAPE index, which is a more complicated formula to come up with another way to look at the atmosphere's potential. And I told you right when you started, when you explained to me your methodology with what you were doing, I said, you got to name it after yourself. This is going to be the best of our metrics. And it wasn't because the MVP concept is bad. It's just that that's more detailed in how it looks at the world. But the MVP data has its purpose as well because it's forecasting also. It can be used to forecast a player's upside, a player's what's the best that this player could be if he goes a whole season. And Bush LR can do that, but it's better with ranking players from one year to the next. It will give you a better idea of who is better than total points will. And that's just a fact. We've done the research. But everything that you could come up with, every idea that you could come up with, test it. See how it works. See if it helped your ROI. Because that's what the consistency metrics have done prior to thinking in upside consistency. Because when we say consistency, folks, we're really looking at upside consistency. How consistent is a player at being above median? That's the key. It's not just how consistent is he from week to week. It's how often does he beat what other players do? Those are the guys you want. You want the population of players on your team to be guys who score a pretty good number on a very consistent basis. If I've got a whole team like that, I'm going to do better than the spike guys that score 41 week and 3 the next. I want guys that are giving me 25 to 30, a better chance at 25 than the average player. And that's where we gain an advantage over just generic AI. Now, over time, AI with the right prompts might get smart enough to give us a run for our money, but only if it's prompted in the right way. So head on over to the science of fantasyfootball.com. Check out the articles by the professor using AI in fantasy football and what we need to do to be better than AI. I have an article out this week taking a look ahead of the NFL draft on where teams might be investing that high draft capital. We'll be talking about that on our sister podcast over at the Science of Fantasy Football. And come on back here next week for another edition of the Data Lab.
Get to work, folks.